Hi everyone, welcome to episode 44 of SAMA. During each SAMA episode, we invite an expert to discuss matters area of expertise. Today we are very lucky to have Dr. Carolyn Dean to talk to us about the importance of magnesium in our diets. Carolyn is not only a medical doctor, also a naturopath, herbalist, acupuncturist, nutritionist, lecturer, consultant, author, inventor, entrepreneur, and a really nice person. Dr. Dean has been in the forefront of health issues for over 30 years. She has authored and co-authored over 35 books, including The Magnesium Miracle, IBS for Dummies, Hormone Balance, Death by Modern Medicine, and 110 Kindle books. So welcome to our SAMA, Carolyn. It's so great to have you on.
Oh, thank you so much, Sam.
Magnesium. How important is it, magnesium? I knew as a child magnesium is important for vehicles, for the wheels.
Really?
Absolutely.
What does it do?
Well, mag wheels. Mag is the magnesium. It's like a wheel that looks like it's made of aluminium. The molded wheels. Really? Don't they
I
have
didn't
them?
know.
Oh, you're too busy studying for your doctors, getting your diplomas and.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Because I know in Japan, some of a Japanese magnesium company approached me, and they were telling me all the amazing things they were doing industrially with magnesium. But then they got interested in magnesium for health, so they wanted to work with me. But I'm pretty much a loner. But yes, magnesium is very important. It's used in firecrackers. It burns so brilliantly that it's a huge component in firecrackers. Well, what it does in the body, it's the spark of life. So you think of the firecracker, you think of the spark of life. And it performs 700 to 800 different enzymatic functions in the body. And that's a huge amount. And we're talking from head to foot. It has a finger in just about everything. So it's helping to relax muscles. And when you think of your heart as one big muscle, and if the muscle gets clenched, that's angina, or heaven forbid, a heart attack, or an arrhythmia. The blood vessels are lined with smooth muscles. If those muscles clench up, then they'll cause high blood pressure. So it's working on the muscles, it's working on the nerves, it creates the nerve firing. And how it does that, magnesium opens a gateway to allow a little bit of calcium into a nerve cell, and then the nerve cell is triggered for an action potential, and then the magnesium pulls the calcium out. If you don't have enough magnesium, the calcium builds up in these cells and they trigger themselves to death. And that happens with nerves and muscles. So it's huge for our physicality, what magnesium is needed for. And then there's balancing the blood sugar by working with the pancreas to release insulin, to help insulin open up the gateways in the cells for glucose to get in, to help digest all the macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fats. It's important to have magnesium to the extent that if you have low blood magnesium, it's a sign of diabetes. So people, when they take a good, well-absorbed magnesium, their blood sugars actually go back into normal, can go back into normal range.
Wow.
Same with cholesterol. Magnesium is a natural statin. And this is in in medical studies. My latest edition of the Magnesium Miracle 2017, I went from 300 pages to 600 pages. I wrote the first book in the late 90s, and then this book 18 years later, I had 300 more medical references and 300 more pages. I had no idea when I started the book how important it was. And even for me, I I was doing the research and realized that my heart palpitations and leg cramps and kind of neck tension from all the typing and insomnia were related to magnesium deficiency. I'm healthier now than I was in my 30s, and I'm more than double that. So it's something that affects every system in the body. Migraine headaches, the first treatment is magnesium. People who get esophageal spasms, they get choking or they cough, they can't swallow vitamins or whatever.
Yes.
It's kind of rare, but that's a muscle spasm in the esophagus. So, even acid reflux and heartburn, if the esophageal sphincter between the esophagus and the stomach,
Yes.
if that's in spasm,
Yes.
that's heartburn.
Wow.
So you just think of anything that's a nerve or a muscle. The energy, we already talked about how it makes energy. And I got to the point in my research that I identified 65 disease conditions that can be related to magnesium deficiency. Now, the FDA does not want me saying that. They've actually come after me and my website. I'm a rebel, Sam, so they're always going to come after me. I'll speak my mind. So on my website, where we were talking about, even just the testimonials, people saying, well, I had AFib and now it's gone because I took your magnesium.
Wow.
Well, you're not allowed to do that, because what the FDA says is that if you claim that magnesium is treating a disease, you are identifying magnesium as a drug, and therefore you have to go through the $1 billion drug trial to prove that it's safe and effective.
Gosh.
Yep. So when I talk about magnesium and the diseases, I say, oh, no, it's just that these conditions are magnesium deficiency, but they've been misidentified as a disease. And it's not my fault they've been misidentified, because when people take magnesium for these misdiagnosed diseases, they get better. So ergo, it was a magnesium deficiency. And what we're doing is we have to use the word structure and function. We are supporting the structure and function of the body by identifying magnesium deficiency and giving magnesium. So there, take that, FDA.
Of these 65 diseases, how many could be reversed if you've identified magnesium deficiency as being the cause, or most likely cause, of these diseases, but once you have them, to reverse something is always harder.
Well, what's interesting is a lot of our customers, they've been ill for a long time, they've given up, they think it's hopeless because they've been treated with medications for all their magnesium deficiency symptoms. But once they read the literature that I offer and come to the realization, left brain realization that, oh my gosh, this makes sense. And then their right brain takes over and they say, man, that my intuition tells me I better take magnesium. And they just take it and they feel better. And I do have other mineral. I just have a couple of products. I've made it so convenient for people that it's just a couple things you need to get your building blocks. And once people start feeling better, taking magnesium, it gives them a new lease on life. It gives them hope. And then they start doing better on their diet. They're able to get exercise because they have more energy. They're sleeping better. So to me, it's like a gateway. The magnesium is a gateway to health, and people just get better and better. It's a continuum, and we never like to say or promote or even give any indication that magnesium is like a drug. What it is, it's something your body's been missing probably for decades. And when you build up your magnesium stores, you get to a point where you can say you're magnesium saturated, and then you can cope with stress. The thing about having stress, where people now, they're talking about their adrenals are shot, their thyroid is low, their sex hormones are in the tank, and they all go together. When one set of hormones kind of declines, the others try to make up for it, and then they decline. But with something like stress, it's constantly draining your adrenal glands, your adrenaline. If you don't have magnesium to build your adrenaline back up, magnesium and vitamin C and good hydration and rest. One of the blogs that I wrote about these, poor people with adrenal fatigue or even chronic fatigue is called lying down therapy. You've got to rest. A lot of especially women who are trying to fight their way through chronic fatigue, they'll just think, I can power through it. I powered through pregnancies and working and taking care of the whole family, including my partner who doesn't do anything, and I'll power through this. But there's a certain point where you really have to just lie down and rest and take care of yourself, and take your magnesium and your other few nutrients that will build the body. And I know you're going to get to the question, but we talked about how diet really isn't helping people because the soil is depleted.
How did you know? That was going to be my next question, because some countries are low. I know New Zealand is low in iodine, and other countries are low in other minerals.
Yeah. Well, yes, there are countries like Africa. There was big studies showing how low they were in selenium in the high AIDS incidence countries, and selenium is important for the immune system. Well, when you look at agriculture, the farming practices have taken minerals out of the soil, and they haven't been replaced. That's all. Okay. The fertilizers that are used are nitrogen-based, potash. There's not much going back in, and there's a lot coming out, and they're just reached a point where there was so little that 100 years ago, the U.S. Department of Agriculture could measure 500 milligrams of magnesium in an average diet. And now we're lucky to get 200. So from 500 to 200, you need 500 or 600 a day to deal with the stress. The RDA of magnesium is said to be like 350, 400. That's not even enough to meet the daily requirements. So it's not in the soil. I see this over and over again. I'll get customers talking to me about, well, I'm drinking 40 ounces of green drink a day. I'm eating raw. I eat vegetables until they're coming out my ears, but I have heart palpitations and leg cramps. Yes. And they take magnesium, and the Remag that I have, within a couple of days, they say, oh my gosh, all my symptoms are gone. And they're quick.
That's fast.
They are quick to respond because they are clean. They are eating well. They're just missing their minerals.
Gosh, just missing that little supplement. Well, the essential food. Gosh. Yeah. I've forgotten my other question. You didn't. I was going to ask you about the different countries. What foods are naturally high in magnesium? Are there any foods that you can?
Well, if it's in the soil, then deep green leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds. Okay. Cacao. Yes. Is high in magnesium, so you can make a dessert with a huge heaping tablespoon of cacao. Yes. A couple of tablespoons of coconut oil, maybe a little bit of a sweetener. I use just like sugar. And you take a frozen banana, a little 2-inch piece of frozen banana. Yes. Roll that in that mixture. Yes. And you've got a nice coat. It solidifies because of it's frozen. Yeah. And you've got a nice little treat. And that's of course, coconut oil is awesome because
Mm.
it has antifungal and anti-everything properties.
Mm.
And the cacao is high in magnesium and other minerals. Seaweed is high in the ocean. You've got 3 times the magnesium as calcium. And
Oh.
there's this whole calcium magnesium business, which I'm sure you're going to ask me about, where the mineral of
You don't need me, do you?
no, the mineral of choice this past 2 decades has been calcium. That's all doctors. Oh, you have to take. How old are you? 45. Okay, you better start taking calcium.
Yes, yes.
So what happened, and I think it was out of New Zealand, Boland, Bolland, he's done a half a dozen studies, and they all culminate in showing that women who are simply taking calcium supplements are getting heart disease. They're at a much higher risk for heart disease because they're calcifying their arteries. They're calcifying into gallstones, heel spurs, kidney stones, and the calcification of their carotid arteries, their heart coronary arteries, their kidney arteries. So they're becoming calcified because what magnesium does in the bloodstream and in the soft tissues is it solubilizes calcium. It will melt calcium out of the soft tissues and direct it to the bones and teeth where it belongs.
Right.
And magnesium is necessary to make the bones more pliable, less brittle. Like if you just had a pure calcium bone, calcium carbonate, like a piece of chalk, you drop that chalk, it'll shatter.
Yes.
And that's what's happening to women now who just take calcium. Their bones are too brittle and they shatter. Yes. The bone drugs like Fosamax make the bones brittle and they shatter.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's very important for the bones.
I've heard stories of heart attack patients when they get put into the ambulance. They have some drops of magnesium under the tongue for sublingual.
That's awesome. I know there have been studies where they run a magnesium IV in the ambulance as soon as they feel it's a heart attack. And
yes.
And the study showed that, a huge survival rate, less blood clots, no arrhythmias. And a lot of people after a heart attack will have a ventricular arrhythmia and that'll kill them.
Yes.
And the studies have been awesome. But because the drug companies were afraid of magnesium, they did studies using magnesium compared to drugs. And instead of giving the magnesium straight away, they waited 24 to 48 hours. And then they said, oh, it doesn't work because they didn't do it right. And then that result became became the law in medicine. Horrible.
Gosh. That should be readdressed, shouldn't it?
Yep.
So what other roles does magnesium play in your body? We've talked about the bones, and we've talked about the nerves, the transfer of signals. I guess with your brain being a whole bunch of nerves as well, it would be pretty important up there, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And there's a study, animal study, it was either mice or rats, that was done with magnesium threonate. I don't know if you came across that. Magnesium threonate has become a big magnesium product, and I don't like to put magnesium down, but what happened with the magnesium threonate study is they compared it to a different form of magnesium, and they said, oh, well, this one gets into the brain, it's much better, and they kind of implied it's the only one that gets into the brain. And when I read the study, it showed there was a 7% increase in the magnesium in the cerebral spinal fluid for this magnesium threonate compared to the other magnesium. 7%. With that 7% increase, it's that we're the best. we're the top. You have to
Yeah.
take this if you want to get magnesium into your brain.
Mm.
And what they totally ignored is every study that's ever been done with any magnesium shows that magnesium helps the brain.
Yes.
It's not even magnesium oxide, which is only 4% absorbed. And it's not that the magnesium oxide, the big compound, gets into the brain, or even the magnesium threonate. What happens with magnesium compounds is they break down, like our product is magnesium chloride.
Okay.
So we stabilize our magnesium as an ion, and chloride is over here. And the magnesium ion can get anywhere. It is so tiny. We call it picometer in size. So these tiny stabilized ions stay stable long enough that they get right into your cells, into your brain, cross the blood-brain barrier. Whereas if it's not stabilized, magnesium is such a reactive substance, it's always binding back up to either the oxide or anything. It'll just bind up and not be available to get into the cells.
Right.
So that's what we're looking at, is this new technology that I'm working with. I told you I was the poster child for magnesium deficiency, but I'm also the poster child for not being able to take magnesium because of the laxative effect.
Oh.
So there I was, I did the research for the book, and I said, oh my gosh, I have magnesium deficiency. I started taking magnesium, and boom, I had the horrible laxative effect. I couldn't take anything. And for 10 years, after I wrote the book, and I was doing a lot of work with magnesium companies, and I was trying to get a company to make a non-laxative magnesium. And they said, oh no, it's too expensive, it'll cost too much, you have to do a lot of patient education or consumer education. So they wouldn't do it. So finally I did it, and that's what I'm working with now. And it's a huge breakthrough, because most therapeutic magnesium, when you try to use enough to make a difference, either to break through the severe magnesium deficiency or break through all the side effects of the drugs or the surgeries, etc., you have to use large amounts. I had to take 1,200 milligrams for my heart palpitations.
Wow.
And as I said, the RDA is like 350, 400. And this was at a time when I would take a new multiple, for example, and there'd be 50 milligrams of magnesium in it, and I'd get the laxative effect. So it's a huge breakthrough, from 50 milligrams to be able to take 1,200 milligrams. And I don't know if it'll ever, I doubt it'll make mainstream, this type of thing, because mainstream is so conditioned to drug-based medicine that they just won't look at the fact that, wow, if you can take enough magnesium, you can get rid of so many magnesium deficiency symptoms that, we could all be dancing like a kid again. But that's how important it is, or how much we need magnesium. For one thing, 80% of the population is deficient. So if you think about 8 out of 10 people who go to a doctor with symptoms that could be magnesium deficient, and they could be treated with magnesium instead of a drug, I mean, it's monstrously huge. And instead, what happens? We get someone who's very stressed out. They go to the doctor, their blood pressure is a little elevated. The doctor says, well, look, you've had this before. Let's put you on a diuretic. You're developing high blood pressure. The diuretic drains out their potassium, their sodium, and their magnesium. But we don't measure magnesium. In an electrolyte panel, we do not measure magnesium. So we ignore magnesium, that's deficiency that's created by the diuretic, and the stress alone means that the person was magnesium deficient. They go back to the doctor in a month, their blood pressure is worse because they're more magnesium deficient. So the doctor says, oh, we caught your blood pressure just in time. Let's give you 2 more blood pressure drugs. We'll beat this. Let's get it. So they give it actually, one of the drugs is usually calcium channel blocker, because they know calcium is a problem,
Yes.
but they don't know that magnesium is a natural calcium channel blocker. So now you have 3 drugs. You come back in a couple more months for blood tests to make sure the drugs aren't harming your liver. And all of a sudden, your cholesterol is elevated because you're losing magnesium, and so you lose the natural statin. Your blood sugar is elevated because you're losing the benefits of magnesium to help balance your blood sugar. So you're put on 2 or 3 more drugs. You're on 6 drugs now, and you're on your way to heart failure.
Yes.
Yep.
All thanks to drugs.
Yay. Well, that's the business model. Keep them coming back.
Keep them coming back. Now, I wanted to ask you a question. I'm sure you know I'm going to ask it, but I'll ask it anyway. Now, you're using a magnesium chloride, which is an ionic form of magnesium. Ions being basically single molecules, so it's the smallest you can get. Now, my question is this, and I'll word it this way. Many people realize that if you put a rusty nail or a few nails under a citrus tree, the tree will draw up the rust, the ferric oxide, and it'll put into the fruit, and the plant also grows extra fast. Now, can you do a similar thing with magnesium? Can magnesium become more bioavailable by putting it into the soil in the form of magnesium?
Epsom salt. Well, Epsom salt, that's been used as a fertilizer. I live in the midst of golf courses on Maui.
That sounds dreadful.
18 golf courses in Maui, which is great because it maintains the green space. But anyway, there's the trucks that go along Sunday mornings. I walk the golf course every day, about 4 miles. And so straight away, as soon as I saw that, I went to the barrels that they're using. And they're all minerals. And the biggest barrel is magnesium.
Wow.
So magnesium you think of chlorophyll, right?
Yes.
The chlorophyll molecule, what's in the center? Magnesium. And chlorophyll is to hemoglobin, chlorophyll is to plants as hemoglobin is to humans. What's at the center of the hemoglobin is an iron mineral. So anyway, magnesium is absolutely necessary for plants, and yes, good farmers replace magnesium into the soil. But what has to happen with minerals is you have to have worms and bugs and different things to chew up the minerals, break them down into the ionic form, because the plant rootlets, the little tiny rootlets, they are picometer in diameter.
Yes.
So they will only allow picometer size minerals or ions. I don't know. That's a good point. Is it just ions they're taking up into the plant body, and then we eat the plants and we get these minerals. And plant-based minerals or food-based minerals are a lot easier to digest than non-ionic nutrients. For example, I only recommend 600 milligrams of magnesium a day.
Okay.
I also recommend 600 milligrams of magnesium, so it's a 1-to-1. But the RDA in the U.S. is 1,200, 1,500 milligrams. Twice, 3 times as much. And what's happened there is we become more calcified because we don't have enough magnesium to dissolve the calcium. But we can usually get our calcium in the diet if we are able to eat dairy products. And just to show you how well absorbed minerals are from food, if I go on a yogurt binge and buy a whole quart of yogurt and eat it in a couple of days, I start developing a little jump in my heart, which reminds me, oh my gosh, I've absorbed too much calcium based on my daily magnesium, so I better take a little more magnesium. So it's those types of self-diagnosis or observing yourself that I really encourage people to do. You cannot leave your body to a doctor who's going to spend 7 minutes with you and doesn't know anything about nutrients. You cannot leave them to make the choices to just give you drugs when you have a nutrient deficient symptom. And what a lot of people put so much faith in doctors. They think, well, when I go to my doctor wants what's best for me and it's going to keep me healthy. Well, that's not their job. Their job is to find a disease and give you a drug. And a lot of times it's just the only thing that they know to do. So they give you a prescription and then you think, oh my gosh, I guess I must be sick or the doctor wouldn't have given me the drug. No, the doctor gives you a drug because that's the only thing they know how to do.
Gosh. But in medical training, you were saying before the seminar started again that it was highlighted that they didn't know the importance of magnesium because it was involved with all the different steps.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, everybody was asleep during biochemistry. You see, the 200 hours in med school biochemistry, it was all there, but nobody paid attention. And there were no doctors who came in and said, see these steps that show that magnesium is needed for energy. When your patient comes in and has no energy, tell them to take magnesium. And what happened with magnesium, getting back to the absorption and this magnesium oxide business, most of the original magnesium studies were done with magnesium oxide. It's only 4% absorbed. So it's an awesome laxative. 96% of it goes out through the urine and the bowels.
Yes.
So that's what doctors know about magnesium. Oh, it's a good laxative, or it's an antacid. It'll neutralize your stomach acid. So they have no knowledge of it as a necessary nutrient. They also know about high doses of magnesium citrate, 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams to flush you out before your colonoscopy. Whereas the daily amount, 300 to 600 milligrams, is 1/10 of what they're telling you to take. So they think of it as a laxative or an antacid. And even when patients ask, well, shouldn't I be taking magnesium? No, it's a laxative. Forget about it. Yeah.
Is it possible to make a magnesium colloid that is using water and applying a potential across 2 magnesium rods?
Right.
We do that for silver, and you get the particulate size very small.
Right. Well, the colloids are like a conglomerate, so they're not going to be absorbed cellularly. They have to be broken down into ions. So I haven't done that, so I don't know for sure. I know a lot of people will put the magnesium chloride in distilled water till it's kind of super saturated and call that a magnesium oil. That's what I was working with before I created the Remag, to try to, rub onto my skin as much magnesium as I could. But to me, it was very irritating. I would get rashes and I just couldn't get enough on my skin. But because of the laxative effect, there was many years ago, for many years, people were saying the only way to get enough magnesium without the laxative effect is transdermal. But they could never get transdermal that would give you enough. With our Remag, because it's 100% absorbed, we have a Remag lotion, and people swear by that. I have one case of a customer who said her 90-year-old mother with rheumatoid arthritis refused to take any supplements. She just had to keep with her drugs. So her daughter got our Remag lotion, squirted it all into her body cream,
Yes.
And her mother would put on this body cream religiously. And
Yeah.
over a period of 6 months, her blood tests improved to the point where she no longer has rheumatoid factor in her blood. Her doctor
Gosh.
is, he just can't believe what's going on. Her
Yeah.
rheumatoid nodules are going away. She's feeling so much better that she no longer talks about wanting to die and meet her husband in heaven. So
He can wait.
this is a total blind study where this woman didn't have a clue what she was putting on her skin.
Gosh. Okay, so just for our viewers, transdermal is when it gets absorbed through your skin. Are you saying, Carolyn, that you can add Epsom salts to a bath and the magnesium does get absorbed by your body?
It does, absolutely. There are a few small studies that show that, but then there was this 2017 study that they took all these studies and said, no, it doesn't work. And it's just crazy making, because everybody who I tell to use Epsom salts baths feels better. I've been on the phone with people. This one young teacher, he was having panic attacks, and he said, I can't talk to you right now, I'm having a panic attack.
Really?
I said, okay, you have Epsom salts at home? Yes. Go to your bathroom, put water in the tub, put in a couple cups of Epsom salts, put your feet in it, keep me on the phone. Within minutes, he was feeling calmer.
Really?
And people who, parents with autistic or ADHD kids, every kid has a bath at night. So you put in 1 or 2 cups of Epsom salts, and they say they sleep better. They stop, banging their head or, banging themselves. They're less irritable and cranky. They're more focused. I mean, that's, again, is a blind study, because the kid doesn't know what they're taking or doing.
Gosh, it's something so simple, so simple.
Yeah.
Have you got...
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Let me just say, Sam, I'm glad you brought up the Epsom salts, because that's kind of where I will first start with patients, clients, customers, or if people will say, well, I'm on these 10 drugs, I'm afraid to take magnesium. And, oh my God. Okay. Remember, your grandmother used to use Epsom salts. Do some Epsom salts. And then that gets them, feeling better, and they're not so afraid to take magnesium.
Gosh, but Epsom salts, is it poisoned? Can you eat it? Epsom salts?
If you get food grade Epsom salts, you would have to get food grade.
Yes.
It's a magnesium sulfate, and people, I suppose people can take it by mouth, but don't tell the FDA I told you to.
No.
I don't know.
A secret sus between you and me and 12,000 Facebook viewers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, all these things, the magnesium chloride, if you put anything in your mouth, you have to be sure it's food grade. Like with our product, it has to go through like 3 or 4 different tests along its production line to make sure there's no contamination and there's what we say is in the bottle. So the FDA has, they're important for people, for companies to be guided to make sure that the products that we're making are safe.
Yes.
And we don't know the safety of something that you're making in your kitchen. So I could never tell someone, yeah, go and mix that up and take it and you'll be fine. That's, quite inappropriate.
Okay. But are there any safe things that people can do? Like, we've got the Epsom salts. Is there anything else? We're getting close to the end of our summer. Anything you'd like to sort of leave with our viewers?
Well, what I do start out with is asking people to drink enough water.
Yes.
When you're taking minerals, like I have my Remag, and there's Remite, which is a multiple mineral. When you're taking minerals, the way they work in the cells is they pull water. You've got your cell, the mineral goes into the cell, and it pulls water behind it. It's osmosis.
Sure.
And then the work of the cell is supported. So if you're dehydrated, the minerals won't work, and you won't feel. You could even feel worse because you've got too many minerals and not enough water. So we start our whole protocol with water, and you take your body weight in pounds, cut that in half, and drink that many ounces of water a day. So say you're 100 pounds, then you're going to drink 50 ounces of water. And you say either quarts or liters. Each quarter liter, you put a quarter teaspoon of a good sea salt in it. And you drink that through the day. With our minerals, they're liquid. You put those in the water and sip that through the day as well. Yes. That's another thing about magnesium. If you take a magnesium and just say, oh, I want to get it all done right now, and you take the full day's dose at once, well, that's going to overload your cells, and the rest of it goes out. Yeah, we call it the fail-safe of magnesium. And just a quick thing on that. Humans grew up by the ocean. The ocean water has 3 times the magnesium as calcium. So we weren't getting enough calcium. So vitamin D was created to grab calcium and keep it in the body. We were getting more magnesium than calcium, so we had the fail-safe of the laxative effect if we had too much magnesium. Now we've completely turned that around so that we're getting like 10 times the calcium as magnesium, and we're getting calcified, and we have so little magnesium that our bodies are shaking and twitching and having all these magnesium deficiency symptoms.
So plenty of water as well as the mineral intake.
Yes.
Wonderful. Carolyn, thank you so much for coming on our show. You know, with this discussion we've had, and I see the energy and the vibrancy that you have. You must have been a real live wire when you were younger.
I don't think I've ever changed. I've always been the same live wire. Really, I always, yeah.
Good on you. Good on you. Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on this show. And thank you, viewers.
Thank you.
And thank you, viewers, for watching. Okay. Bye-bye.
Aloha.
Aloha. It must be wonderful in Maui. You've got beautiful, I mean, what I've seen, and they've had films there as well. There's a cartoon, but there's that's a picture of the tropical paradise.
Yeah. I mean, I can...
with 18 different golf courses.
Yeah. Let me show you out my window. I'll have to...
Oh, palm trees, blue sky. And I can see them through the blinds.
Yeah.
Oh.
We got it all.
Okay. Everybody, what we're seeing, everybody, is it's a view of paradise.
Oh. And the ocean is just down there.
Wow, so close.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel sorry.
I'm a 12-minute walk from
I feel sorry.
12-minute walk from the ocean. Yeah, I know.
How do you tolerate those living conditions?
Well, yes, exactly. And, I guess partly I might have been coming here to retire, but it's only been since I moved to Maui that I've really gotten involved with helping people with their nutritional supplements.
Yes. There's some questions which came through. Can we just quickly answer this? Now that Sam, we're doing everything wrong this time, aren't we? Well, now that we've finished, now what do you think of the Morley Magnesium Protocol? Have you heard of this?
Well, Morley Robbins. I have a bit of problem with Morley. He was a hospital administrator, and then he puts himself forth as a magnesium expert. And he knows my magnesium, and actually I won't say much more. I have problems with someone who's a non-medical person trying to give medical advice. It's very dangerous. Okay.
The second one, threonate. What do you think of threonate, it's called?
We talked about that. That was the 7% increase in magnesium in
that
rats.
That was, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a premium product for 7% extra.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And we've covered the optimum amount of magnesium supplementation per day. They're asking for a 50-year-old. Does your magnesium requirement change as you age?
You can't define it that way in my experience. It changes depending on your stress level, your burn rate, if you're on medications. If you're an athlete, we didn't even talk about that. The more you sweat, the more magnesium you lose, and you have to replace it. And Gatorade doesn't do it because it's just sugar and sodium. So all these poor athletes, they're developing diabetes. And I've had them come to me and say, I've got panic attacks and heart palpitations. My doctor wants me to take these drugs. And when they've signed a contract with these huge, football, basketball conglomerates, they have to do what their doctor says, or default their contract, whatever it's called. Yeah, so they're stuck. They can't go natural. They can do it on the side, but they have to take the drugs. Okay, so
the recommended daily intake of magnesium wouldn't change from teenage years to like a 50-year-old? Question? That's just...
No.
Okay.
I mean, look at me. 100 pounds, I had to take 1,200 milligrams. Because I had decades of deficiency. So I tell people 300 milligrams might be kind of a maintenance, but you have to get your stores up first. I developed my magnesium stores for several years. Now I only have to take 300 milligrams, which is awesome.
It is. Hey, I really enjoyed our talk, Carolyn. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, I'd like to ask you back again once you've recovered from this one. The death by medicine. That will be a riveting. If you're willing, no obligation.
Okay, we'll see how it goes. And actually, what I'd like you to put up, my webmaster wants to check out this website, www.magmiracle.com. And on that website, you get a free chapter of my 2017 edition of Magnesium Miracle. So we'll see who grabs that. That will be interesting for me. Okay?
Wonderful. Hey, thank you very much, Carolyn. You have a great
Thank you, Sam.
You have a great afternoon.
Yeah, I think I'll go to the pool now. Bye.
Get your vitamin D. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Are you originally from New Zealand?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because when I went to the website and realized you were doing the Right Ray, it's out of New Zealand. And the spooky too kind of threw me. I didn't know why you chose that name for the website.
Well, the very first accessory that Spooky had was Spooky Remote. And that is a system where you can transfer frequencies from one location to another without any wires between them. And you're thinking right at the moment, it sounds pretty spooky. but you see, but it's got a secondary thing. It's like Einstein coined the phrase "spooky action at a distance," and
really?
And so we picked up on that. It's to do with quantum entanglement and all sorts of things we just don't understand, but they work, so we use it.
Right.
And
I mean, we have no idea of the other dimensions that we just kind of ignore. There's so much else going on out there.
We can only know what our senses can perceive or what our instruments can measure. And if it's beyond that, how do we know what kind of instruments to make if we don't know what's out there?
But anyway, I was saying when Christopher Columbus came across the Atlantic and the Indians were on the shore doing whatever they were doing, they could not see the ships because it wasn't in their frame of reference. they just kind of looked beyond the ships because it was so bizarre. I guess so bizarre for their brain to process that.
Yes.
So we don't see what we don't know.
That's right. That's right.
And when people just stay within what they think they know, or their belief systems, or their science, they're really not opening themselves to the possibilities of so much else. So the spookiness is important because people have to be aware that there are other layers.
300 years ago, if someone was told that in the future, not so distant future, there'd be radio, which is a way of transporting sound and pictures, well, not for radio, but for TV pictures, over great distances. This is no way. You'll be burned at the stake.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is amazing, and people going around talking to their hand, which with the cell phones. Well, that's even crazy for humans because they're becoming more like robots. You
and I are the same mind. I call them walking zombies. When they bump into things because they're busy doing something awfully important, like liking something on Facebook or something.
Well, when I've challenged people, my friend's community or whatever, and I say, what are you doing on that thing all the time? They say, I'm getting rid of apps I don't need. I'm getting rid of news feeds. I'm getting rid of photos I don't need. So they're constantly processing this overload of information that's downloading into their phones, cluttering their phones, and they constantly have to take care of it. They're taking out the garbage. It's not time saving at all.
They should design a 3D app called Life. Oh, hang on, there is
Yeah, and you know what they say about Westerners? They die. They're up at the pearly gates, and there's two signs. One sign says heaven, and the other sign says seminar on heaven. And they go to the seminar.
Gosh. Yeah. I noticed it here in China that people seem... I've been in China for a while. I'm not sure that's to this extent in other countries like Maui. But, just how they cross a road, and I've seen it. Probably most times, they all go from one side of the road to the other while ignoring everything that's around them, because nothing can touch them because they're in their virtual,
Yeah. Yes.
Is it the same Is it the same in Maui and other places you've been?
Oh yeah, on Maui I live like a 15-minute walk from a boardwalk that goes in front of 5 hotels, and they're nice hotels. They're not high rises. We kept them to about 5-6 stories, so they actually fit into the environment. So anyway, I walk along, and there's this big lineup for Starbucks coffee. Everyone's standing in line looking at their phone. And the ocean is right there, and they're not even looking at it. This is how bad cell phone technology has made our brains. And the coffee. They're in an environment where they should be energized just by the ocean and nature, but they still have to have their morning coffee. Which depletes their magnesium.
Cell phones have only taken their grip on sanity over the last few years, really. I wonder, at the rate of decline, sorry, I shouldn't use the word decline, at the rate of advancement, I wonder what it's going to be like in another 10 years. That's how advanced. I mean, they're talking about having embedded electronics, so you don't even have to look at your hand. You can.
It'll be chipped. It'll be in our brain, definitely. People are going to beg to be chipped so that they can just, tap the side of their jaw or whatever and start talking to someone. They're going to want to be chipped so that they don't have to remember their passwords, all the written form of literacy that they're totally rejecting, so that they can just be a digital body. We talk about it in terms of my husband does a lot of work on media and communication. He was the archivist for Marshall McLuhan. Marshall McLuhan was the Canadian, they called him the media guru, but he predicted exactly what's going on now. And what my husband Bob has done is he said, okay, we've got a chemical physical body.
Yes.
And we sort of step outside that and use our chip body or digital body, TV and internet. We have a TV body because we interface with the TV all the time. And then we have a kind of a mystical body, which encompasses the spooky realm. So we've got all these 4 bodies that we're juggling all the time. And this is partly what's driving people crazy, because they can't keep track of it. So we know what's going on. We know what's going on. It's okay. And then I take care of the physical body with my health information and my products. I had to move to the stage of products because people, they can't eat information. They can learn what's going on, but they're so stressed, so overloaded with information that they get burnt out, stressed out, and then they do require some physical nutrient support to deal with it. I was making the theory just the other day that I think autism is these kids who in the womb, because the ears are open in the womb, they hear all this cacophony, is it, or cacophony, and they shut down.
Yes.
They shut down even before they're born, or they want to they're close to shutting down, and then the vaccines and the toxins and the antibiotics really just put them into a shutdown mode.
Yes.
But I think autism is a creation of our digital landscape.
Gosh. And that's why autism has increased by exponentially, really, because our digital communications is it digital purely because of the sharp waveforms and the higher harmonics that those produce?
Well, when you there are many levels to it. What Marshall McLuhan said was girls don't get as much of this ADHD and autism because they do a lot of fine work, or they used to,
Yes.
sewing, knitting, they're not sort of out bouncing on the trampolines or doing sports, but there's something about eye-hand coordination that's involved as well. There are a lot of things involved, especially when you think that after certain children get their vaccinations, they just disintegrate and others don't. I mean, that's the reason why medicine says, well, vaccines can be harmful because they're not killing everybody. Wait until they kill everybody and then we'll have proof. So we've got a really crazy situation where nobody's looking at the accumulation of the epigenetic factors that will create this ease.
If vaccination takes one life or destroys one life, that's one life too many. Like you'd know, Carolyn, if in so-called alternative medicine, if a supplement caused the death of one person, the company that company will be closed down, the company that produced that supplement. But yet we see it all the time with drugs, and it seems like it's a different threshold. The bar's not set the same level.
Right, yes. I covered all that in one of my books called Death by Modern Medicine. Have you come across that?
Yes, I have. It's one of my favorite books.
And, all the drug companies do, along with the FDA has to be paid a certain percentage of the money put into a drug trial. So they're all complicit in making sure that drug trial goes as well as possible for the drug company. So they're in a business, they're in it to make money, they're trying to overlook the drug side effects, and somehow they've convinced themselves that people need drugs, so we have to make these drugs, and it's too bad they have side effects, but we have to put up with them. Not for 1 minute looking at the safer alternatives, because the safer alternatives can't be patented and they won't make money. So people just in the public, they just don't seem to be able to cope with the fact that medicine is that blatantly commercialized. I just spoke the other day to the Rotary Club here in Maui, and I said to these people, look, you're all probably retired or semi-retired professionals and business people. You've done well, and now you're giving back to the community. And what did you do when you specialized in your profession or your career? You left everything else to other specialists, your car to your mechanic, etc. Your health, you left to your doctor. And it would be okay if that was a Marcus Welby. I don't know if you know that name. It was a TV show back when I was growing up. And it was the family doctor who came to your house and knew exactly what was going on.
Yes.
And
yes.
the remedies they gave were mostly common sense. The common sense of, well, go to bed, drink some water, stop drinking alcohol. Anyway, so what happened, though, at the same time is, as we became specialists, is medicine was bought up by the insurance companies and the HMOs, health maintenance organizations. So doctors became employees of a business where they just wanted to make a profit.
Yes.
So in HMOs, we've got your 7-minute appointment, which you can, and they say, I can't talk to you about more than one symptom at a time. Come back for another appointment.
Yes, I've had that. It's shocking.
Shocking. And at the end of the visit, here's a prescription for this symptom that you've just told me about. So we've created this incredible situation where doctors are looking for disease so they can treat it with a drug, but patients are going to the doctor to try to stay healthy. And never the twain shall meet, because in medical school, we learned nothing about nutrients, absolutely zero about nutrients. In our biochemistry classes, I had 200 hours of biochemistry. And every slide up there on the projector had biochemical pathways. Every one of them required a vitamin or a mineral to proceed to the next step.
Yes.
In the pathway called the Krebs cycle, that makes our energy, keeps me all bouncy and everything. Six of the 8 steps in the Krebs cycle require magnesium.
Gosh.
So if someone goes to a doctor and says, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, but I'm tense and I can't sleep and my muscles ache, and I get up in the morning and I drag myself to work, I'm just kind of apathetic. Well, that's a magnesium deficiency. Every one of those symptoms is a magnesium deficiency. And the doctor says, oh, you're depressed. Here, take this drug that's going to suppress your magnesium even further. The antidepressant drugs that we're using, SSRIs, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, a lot of them have fluoride molecules attached to them.
Yes.
And fluoride will bind to magnesium, make something called magnesium fluoride, and that compound, it's brittle, and it gravitates toward the bones and the cartilage and the tendons.
Yes. And
the side effects of like a Cipro antibiotic, which is a fluoride drug, the side effect is tendon rupture. But no one is admitting to the fluoride connection with these drugs. And they'll say, I really haven't even heard a discussion, but they'll probably say, well, in the test tube, we put the Cipro in there and it doesn't break down. But you take the gut with trillions of bacteria, whose job is to break down anything that comes its way. They will break down these drugs.
Wow.
And they will release fluoride, or they'll release whatever's going on. The liver tries to mop it up,
Yes.
but the liver detoxification pathways, they're pretty awesome, but they weren't built for the 60,000 chemicals that we have in our environment now. Just a bit of cleanup on IL-5. I've actually been practicing medicine since 1979, so that's 38 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. And before that, I went into medicine in my mid-20s.
Yes.
I traveled. My husband and I traveled. I'd gotten very interested in health and nutrition, and in my honors biology, genetics in university, I thought that would be the way to influence the world. And my joke about genetics is, I was going to search out the stupidity gene and clip that out.
That's
but
funny.
Before I got there, I think I was in my third year of my my science, Bachelor of Science, and a couple of guys in one of my biology classes said, "Oh, did you get accepted?" And I said, "Well, I feel pretty accepted, what's up?" And they had just gotten into medical school. Now, these were two young guys, probably 19 years old, and they were going to be doctors, and I was horrified. And I said, "Oh my gosh, you're going to be doctors? That's terrible." Yeah. So I marched over to the Dean of Medicine office at my university, and who was there but my high school guidance counselor, Miss Elliott, who in my whatever aptitude test, they said I could be an executive secretary or a nurse, right? So this was, hear me being one of the top 3 students in high school. Yes. I was a vice president of the student council because girls couldn't be the president. This is in the 60s, and I said to her, you better fix this, because they should have streamed me toward being a doctor, but girls weren't doctors back then. I mean, that's how, this is just going back 40 or so years that we had such discrimination. Women were just supposed to get married and have children, or be a teacher, a nurse, or a wife, or a prostitute. And, I wasn't interested in any of those. Okay. So Miss Elliott, she was an assistant to the Dean of Medicine. So I had her support, and I got in the next semester because, God was on my side, and I had all the prerequisites. So I actually was great, Sam, because rather than, just worrying my whole life, I so want to be a doctor, I hope I pass this test. I didn't even have a thought. I'm just a good student, and there I was in medicine. And with all, my knowledge about nutrition, health, and lifestyle, I thought I could make a difference. And one of the things that almost prevented me from getting in was the third-year medical students interviewed the applicants, the new students who wanted to get into medicine. And they thought I was too naive about medicine. They thought I was like a Pollyanna. The words were, she thinks she can make a difference. She thinks she can actually improve medicine. She's going to be rudely awakened. And that's what these poor third years, that's what they had come to. They were so cynical and so beaten down.
Well, they still had the stupid gene in them, didn't they?
Yeah, they still had the stupid gene. But anyway, that's all water under the bridge. Here I am now, 50-odd years later.
But you've got such a positive energy. Yeah. Well, I won't do the maths. But you've got such positive, and you probably, back then you would have had the energy of youth to compound with this energy that so they would have seen you as a Pollyanna. But when you watch a Pollyanna film, she's a girl that just you couldn't put her down. She kept on bouncing back up again.
Right.
So isn't that a positive? That's a positive, surely. And so
I know. But in medicine, the way they train doctors, it's hospital-based. Everybody's got a problem. The attitude of doctors back then was, don't get friendly with your patients.
Right.
I was caught sitting on the bed of one old fisherman. This was in Nova Scotia, Canada, so
Yes.
East Coast. So I was sitting on the bed of this old fisherman getting his history. Now, the thing of it is, I was going deaf at the time. I have a hearing condition. And I had to hear him. But when the clinician came by with the rest of the students, he started admonishing me about sitting on the bed of a patient. And then a little while later, we were at the bed of this like a 25-year-old young man with a condition called ankylosing spondylitis.
Oh, gosh.
And that's a condition where the spine just, it gets rigid.
Solid,
and
the bones, the calcium.
Yeah.
Grows,
Yeah. And this clinician in front of this young man just sort of read his death sentence. And I was just appalled. And I said to this Dr. Yabsley, I said, actually, I'd like to talk to you after this session. And I just lit into him. And, I'm not a big person, so they just kind of made a joke of it, don't get in the way of Dean, she'll come after you, ha, ha, ha. Yeah. So I had my say, and I would speak up.
You'd have lost your Pollyanna label then, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Medicine is crazy. Actually, I was just reading one of the Medscape forums talked about, would you let your patient call you by the first name? Now, here it is, 2017, and some of these there were like 800 replies to this editorial. I would never let a patient call me by my first name. You have to maintain your status with these patients. You can't let, it was just draconian, the way some doctors think. They feel themselves so superior to their patients, but they're only offering them drugs, and their status is declining. So I think the more their status declines, the more they lash out against patients.
Right. Before SAMA officially started, we started talking about the training that doctors have in nutrition.
Yeah.
And
oh gosh, yeah.
Can we cover that again?
Zero. None. It's just impossible to imagine that this day and age there's no nutrition training. And what happens then is the public, because of the internet, you can get any amount of information on the internet, and a lot of it is contradictory. People don't know where to turn. I ended up with my different newsletters and online wellness program, people just started to say, look, just tell me what to do. I trust you as a resource. I just can't make out what's going on the internet. But yes, you will still have doctors saying to patients, it doesn't matter what you eat. My worst nightmare was in my internship. I was in Toronto by then at the Mount Sinai hospital, and all the chiefs of staff would interview the various interns. So I was sitting with the chief gastroenterologist. So there he was, way overweight, with a can of soda in one hand, a bag of chips in the other, and a bag of candies on his desk. So I said, do you think diet plays any role in gastrointestinal disease, doctor? And he said, no, not a bit. So that's what we were trained. It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And we know, and there is some medical acceptance of gluten being problematic, the different dairy proteins being problematic, and we don't have the enzyme for lactose breakdown as we get older. I mean, we know all these things. People get better overnight when they avoid things that they can't digest. So when doctors believe what we were told in medical school, that when you finish your medical training, you'll know everything there is to know about the body. And if anything else comes along, it's either quackery or wrong. So doctors will not, most of them, they won't refer to chiropractors or naturopaths. They tell you just to eat your diet, don't worry, don't bother with supplements. They just have this brainwashed, very closed way of looking at their patients, because the modus operandi of medicine was look at a patient's symptoms to diagnose a disease and treat the disease symptoms with a drug. And nothing else gets in the way of their that focus.
The doctors, it's not really a fault of theirs that I know. It's just their training. I've met quite a few doctors that have got good hearts, and they truly do want to help, but the equipment, the knowledge that they've been given can't handle the larger picture.
Right. And then when they get into practice, if they're not giving the same amount of drug prescriptions as their the average doctor, if they're not making referrals, if they take too long with patients, if they talk about alternatives, they start getting reprimanded. They do.
I didn't know that.
And, they get attacked. I was attacked in Canada because I said bad things about sugar on national TV. That's how bad it is for doctors who try to speak out. I'm not, well, I have a license in California now, but I don't practice there. I stay away from California. I live in Maui, and I have my online supplement business. So I just keep my license just to say, yeah, I have a license, But if I had a license and a practice saying the things I do, I would be attacked all the time. The way it is now, actually, because I was attacked about the sugar, and then they sent a plant into my office who accused me of refusing to give him a homeopathic remedy for his allergies. And under that complaint, I was, actually, it was a kangaroo court that was convened 3 years after I left Canada. I went to New York to do AIDS and chronic fatigue research using alternative methods.
Yes.
So they had a kangaroo court. They pretended to take away a license that I hadn't had for 3 years, just so they could kind of keep the lid on alternative medicine. It's like, well, look what happened to her. It'll happen to you too if you don't toe the line. And that's how they keep doctors under the thumb, and prevent us from becoming mainstream in any way and promoting a non-drug protocol.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the subject this week is magnesium.
Who knew?
Now before the end of this summer, well, the summer's finished, but I'll share this with everybody. What we have here is an organite pyramid. It's made by Masaki, and it's a powered one. It's got oh gosh, it looks like silver pieces of metal in there. It's got gold flakes. It's got a coil, a special Mobius coil, which is powered. It's got a crystal on top. It's all encased in an organite pyramid, and it's got power for the LED, which you can probably see there. It glows different colours. If you want to visit akaida.com, that's AKAIDA. Masaki sells them there. he sent this to me as a trial to see what I thought of it, and I think it's marvellous. I have it going at night time because it looks pretty. It's supposed to help with the sleep, concentration, and doesn't make breakfast in the morning though. I think that must be in the next model up. But it's a beautiful, beautiful pyramid, even just for aesthetics, to have this on your mantelpiece. And people look at it and think, wow, that looks pretty impressive. And it is really impressive, the amount of work that must have gone into this. So thank you, Masaki. He sent this to me. It was totally unexpected, but it's beautiful. I've never seen a pyramid so beautiful. In the past, I'd actually bought this one here, which is a shungite pyramid. It's made from shungite, which is a meteor only available from a part in Russia. And this is supposed to have a very calming effect. So you have this, this beside you in the bed, which I do. But this one here just looks so beautiful. It's sort of like a work of art. So yeah, thank you, Masaki. You've made a beautiful sculpture here. And it seems to be working. I'm sleeping well, focusing well, got lots of energy. And now, of course, I've got to make sure I've got lots of magnesium in my diet after this talk with Carolyn. And I'd love to have her back on to talk about Death by Medicine. It's a book that she's written explaining how medicine has, it's not all good. There's a dark side as well. And she's a brave woman. She's written a book, and I'd love to have her discuss this with us at some time in the near future. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in and for the questions that you've asked. We covered the final questions at the very end after the seminar had actually finished. But, when you talk to someone so interesting as this, she's full of knowledge, and she's like a gold mine. And so we can talk about other items, and each sentence she says just opens your eyes up more to reality, what really is out there, and teaches us so much. So it's been fantastic having her on board. I love seminars now. You walk away and you think, gosh, I wish I'd known this earlier. Well, now you know. Now you know the importance magnesium has in your diet, and how easy it is to actually increase the amount of magnesium in your diet. You don't need to have it as a supplement, as a over the counter, something you've got to buy. But I guess that makes it easy, especially if you live in a country which is low in magnesium. And I guess with extensive farming, most countries are. So if you've got migraines, if you have panic attacks, if you have heart palpitations, it might be just low magnesium. You don't need a drug. You just need a food. Thank you once again for watching. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.